New figures suggest emergency departments in Scottish hospitals recorded their best December performance in recent years. 95% of people were dealt with within the Scottish Government's target of 4 hours. It's the best performance in Scotland since 2009. Figures for the rest of the UK are released at different times. But overall, Scottish emergency departments are treating people more quickly than England, Wales or Northern Ireland. How much time does it take to potentially save a life? The Scottish Ambulance Service was planning to downgrade certain kinds of 999 calls, which meant crews were given longer to get there. But now those plans have been postponed following the intervention of the Chief Medical Officer. Well, our health correspondent Eleanor Bradford joins us. Eleanor, so what kind of calls are we talking about and what changed?
Well, Jackie, the ambulance service has hundreds of categories of calls, but they're classified either category A, B or C, depending on how fast an ambulance is needed. Now, ambulance bosses wanted to change some types of call in category A to category B. Now, that affects how quickly you'd need to respond to them. By making the changes, it meant that paramedics would have 19 minutes to respond to these new category B calls rather than the 8 minutes they had previously. But the types of call raised some eyebrows. They included chest pains with abnormal breathing, chest pains with a history of heart attack or angina, and, for example, for being not alert after falling. So those plans are now on hold whilst the Chief Medical Officer satisfies herself that all this is safe.
So different categories of patient need a different type of response. These codes are quite old, they're 30 years old, and in fact our treatments and our response times have of course improved over those years. So perhaps now time has come to actually look in more detail at these codes because we want to sustain the best outcome with our current treatment.
So why were those changes being considered in the first place?
Well, it all depends on how you look at it. Opposition politicians and some paramedics have said that it was to make it easier for the ambulance service to meet target times for responding to calls. At the moment, the ambulance service has a target that it should get to 75% of category A calls within 8 minutes. But last year, it only reached 66% of those calls within that time frame. However, the ambulance service itself says that it's doing it for medical reasons, that it's looked at 6 months' worth of data and that this is not only clinically safe, but that the unions are actually in agreement that this should be done. But as you heard the Chief Medical Officer say there, the whole system is actually based on quite old data and quite an old system. And in Wales, they've gone even further. They've been more radical and they've done away with target times altogether. What they have started to look at is simply whether or not the ambulance gets there quickly enough for the patient to make a good recovery.
Thank you very much, Eleanor.